Two officers thought they could humiliate a homeless black veteran in a quiet diner, but they didn't know who she was or who she could call. That mistake cost them everything. Rain had a way of quieting everything except your thoughts. It dripped down the back of Sergeant Nia Rowland's neck as she pushed open the glass door of the diner, the kind with a flickering "open" sign and the smell of burnt coffee lingering just beneath the grilled bacon. Her boots squelched softly against the tile, trailing water in uneven steps behind her. She didn't look up, didn't need to. People always stared. The diner was just outside Fayetteville, the kind of place you stop in if your regular spot's full or if you're too tired to care. Nia wasn't here for nostalgia or comfort food. She was cold. And hungry, sure, but mostly just tired. Of the weather, of walking, of feeling invisible until it suited someone to remember she existed. She slid into the corner booth near the window, letting her pack fall beside her with a soft thud. Her military jacket, sun-faded and a little too big around the shoulders now, clung to her like old skin. She pulled out a crumpled $5 bill, smoothing it on the table with careful hands. A coffee. That's all she wanted. The waitress, maybe mid-20s, hesitated. Her name tag said Erin, and her eyes flicked to Nia's face, then to her boots, and finally to the duffel on the floor. "You planning to order something?" she asked, more out of obligation than interest. Nia met her eyes. "Coffee. Cream if you got it." Erin nodded but didn't move right away. She looked toward the counter, where the manager stood drying mugs with a towel that had seen better days. He raised an eyebrow. Erin walked off. Nia leaned back, her spine cracking as it met the cushion. The booth's vinyl stuck to her damp coat. Through the steamed-up window, the rain kept falling, the world outside blurred into grayscale. Then came the sound of the bell above the door. Two officers walked in. Officer Brent Layton and Officer Cole Rafferty. Regulars. Locals knew them. Nia did not, but she didn't need a formal introduction. You can smell certain kinds of men from across a room. They weren't wet from rain. Just comfortable. They scanned the diner, talking quietly between themselves before locking eyes on her. Layton was the first to move. Tall, mid-40s, the kind of guy who leaned into his belt like it was a symbol. He walked over slowly, that deliberate kind of walk some men use to measure you. "Ma'am," he started. "You with someone?" Nia didn't blink. "No, just waiting on a cup of coffee." Rafferty chuckled behind him. "You waiting or loitering?" Layton nodded toward her bag. "You just passing through or planning to stay a while?" Nia's lips twitched. Not quite a smile. Is that a crime now? The diner had gone quieter than it should have. Fork stalled mid-air. Erin looked away. Nobody was really listening, but everybody was aware. Layton nudged the strap of her duffel with his boot. "You mind picking this up? People might trip." She looked down at the bag, then back up. "You're worried about safety now?" The sarcasm wasn't sharp, but it landed. You could feel it. Layton's jaw flexed, but he didn't respond right away. Rafferty stepped in, arms folded. "Let's not make this difficult, all right? I didn't come here to make anything difficult," Nia said. "I came here to sit. Maybe drink something hot. Then leave. That's it. But some folks might be uncomfortable," Rafferty said, tone cooler now. "You know how that goes." Her eyes hardened. "I do. I also know how it goes when people with authority start talking about comfort like it's more important than decency." There it was. The tension had fully arrived now. Not loud, not chaotic, but sharp enough to cut. The kind that made your chest tighten without knowing why. The officers weren't yelling. Nia wasn't raising her voice, but something was starting to build. But when one of them kicked her bag, things shifted. It wasn't a hard kick, more like a nudge with attitude. But Nia felt it. And so did everyone watching. Because now it was different. Rafferty rocked back on his heels like it hadn't happened. Layton just stood there, waiting, like the ball was in her court. Nia didn't flinch. She bent down, picked up her bag slowly, and placed it beside her on the booth. Then she looked them both dead in the face. "You ever serve?" she asked, her voice level. Leighton narrowed his eyes. "What's that got to do with anything?" She shrugged. "Nothing. Just helps me decide how much patience to give you." Rafferty rolled his eyes. "All right. This is done. You need to go." "No law says I can't sit in a public diner and order coffee," she said. "You're making this a thing. I'm just sitting." Erin appeared with a mug, fingers tight around the handle. She placed it down gently and looked to Leighton. "She paid," she said quietly. "I saw her. She's not causing trouble." Leighton ignored her. "You got somewhere else to be?" he asked Naya. "I got nowhere to be," she replied. "But that doesn't mean I don't belong here." And just like that, something broke in Leighton's expression. His eyes narrowed. The corner of his mouth twitched. Nia had seen that look before, in checkpoints overseas, in eyes that didn't see people, just problems. He leaned forward, elbows on the table like they were sharing a secret. "Let me guess. You're one of those who comes back thinking this country owes you something. Medal in one pocket, entitlement in the other?" There were a few quiet gasps. A spoon clattered onto a plate. Even Rafferty seemed caught off guard. Nia didn't move. She didn't blink. "You know what I came back with?" she asked. "A limp, a bronze star I keep buried in a sock, and no permanent address. I didn't ask for handouts. I asked for peace. But peace don't come easy when you've got people like you mistaking quiet for weakness." Rafferty stepped back, muttering under his breath, "This is going sideways." Leighton, still leaning in, smiled a little. "You're sharp, I'll give you that. But you're still leaving." She reached into her coat slowly, deliberately, enough to cause Leighton to stiffen, and pulled out an old flip phone. Scratched, taped on one corner, but working. Leighton scoffed. "You gonna call a lawyer on your burner phone?" "No," Naya said. "Just an old friend." There was silence. Not the awkward kind. The heavy kind. Like everyone in that diner had stopped breathing for a moment to see what she'd do. She dialed. "Cam," she said into the phone. "Yeah. It's me. I'm at Bailey's Diner. 2 units here. Badge numbers. Hold on." She looked up at Leighton and Rafferty. "You want to make this official or you want me to guess?" Leighton's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Cam," she continued, "I don't know what kind of favors you still owe me, but I need one cashed in. Fast." She closed the phone. People in the diner looked around, confused. Erin stepped back, unsure what she'd just witnessed. The manager ducked into the kitchen, pretending not to hear. Leighton finally spoke, voice lower now. "That's supposed to scare us?" "No," Nia said. "It's supposed to remind you that not everybody with a rough jacket and a duffel bag is someone you can shove out the back door." Her voice hadn't wavered once. Not when they nudged her bag. Not when they tried to shame her. And not when she made the call. But something had shifted in the air. Like the room had caught on that this woman wasn't going to be cornered without a fight. But it wasn't the officer's words that changed the room. It was hers. Officer Leighton backed off half a step. He didn't say anything, but his face said plenty. Rafferty looked at him, then at Nia, then at the people in the diner who were no longer pretending not to watch. Nia sat still. She took one sip of her coffee, lukewarm already, but it didn't matter. That call had changed something, even if no one in that room understood just how much yet. Rafferty shifted awkwardly. "So who exactly did you call?" Naya stared straight ahead. "You don't need to know that." Leighton wasn't used to silence like this. He needed control, and she wasn't giving it. "Look, lady, don't play games. We've got reports of loitering and suspicious activity around here." "From who?" she asked, cutting him off. He didn't answer. "That's what I thought," she said. "You made a call before you walked through that door. You saw me and assumed I was a threat because I'm sitting here with a tired coat and no lipstick. You don't know me, but I know your kind." Leighton's voice dropped an octave. "Watch it." "No," Nia said, louder now. You watch it. Because the person I called does know me. I saved his life once. In Ghazni province. He works with internal affairs in Raleigh now. And if you think he won't pick up the phone for me, you're in for a surprise. She leaned forward just enough to make him uncomfortable. I spent years watching men like you talk tough in foreign countries. But the real power never came from your weapons or your badges. It came from how people looked the other way when you crossed the line. Not today. The room felt heavier now. Not louder, just more aware. Erin had stopped pretending to wipe the counter. Two men at the back booth had their heads tilted just slightly toward the scene. A teenage boy by the jukebox had taken out his earbuds. Rafferty muttered, and just then the door buzzed again. This time it wasn't rain that followed. It was a young man in a grey suit, moving fast, phone still in hand. He walked straight to the counter, showed something on his screen to the manager, then turned and scanned the room. His eyes landed on Naya, then the two cops. "You Leighton?" he asked flatly. Leighton stiffened. "Who's asking?" The man held up a badge. "Detective Owen Price, Wake County Internal Affairs. I need you outside. Now." Silence again. Real silence. The kind where even the hiss from the griddle in the kitchen seemed to vanish. Leighton's eyes bounced from the badge to Naya and back to the badge. "This is a joke." "Does it look like I'm laughing?" Price asked. Rafferty stepped back. "Wait, how'd you get here so fast?" "I was already in town," Price said. "Got a call from someone I trust. That call led to 2 badge numbers I've been meaning to revisit. So now we're doing that. Outside." Leighton didn't move. Price stepped forward, tone sharper. That wasn't a suggestion. The two officers exchanged looks. Then slowly, without another word, they walked past Nia and out the door. Price followed. The diner was still frozen. Nia finally exhaled. She hadn't realized she was holding her breath. Erin stepped back over, her voice soft. "Are you okay?" Nia looked up. "I'm fine, just tired." Erin nodded. "Can I warm that up for you?" Nia glanced at the mug. "Yeah, sure." She didn't smile, but something in her face softened. Just for a moment. Outside, the rain hadn't stopped. But the weight inside the diner had lifted. But no one expected what would happen next. Outside, Leighton was pacing like a man who just realized the ground beneath him wasn't solid. Rafferty stood near the squad car, arms crossed, mouth tight. Detective Price didn't waste time. "You know how this works," he said, voice low but firm. "You've been flagged before, Leighton. Twice. Once for excessive force during a stop last fall, and another time for inappropriate contact during a noise complaint call." Leighton snapped. "Those complaints didn't stick." "Didn't stick," Price repeated. "Right, that's because your captain kept burying the paperwork." Price turned to Rafferty. "You were there both times. You backed him up." Rafferty shifted. "I never touched anyone." "No," Price said. "But you knew. And you stayed quiet. That makes you part of it." Inside the diner, Nia could see them through the window. She sipped her refilled coffee slowly, not taking her eyes off the parking lot. She wasn't angry. She was focused, watching with the same sharp stillness she used to rely on during long patrols in Kandahar. Back outside, Price tapped his phone. "Captain Russo's on his way. You two are being placed on temporary suspension while we reopen all internal complaints from the past 3 years." "You've got no case," Leighton muttered. "None of this sticks." Price held up a small voice recorder. "This whole morning was recorded from the moment I stepped in. And the call from Sergeant Rowland? That's archived. You really want to test how much doesn't stick when it goes statewide?" Leighton said nothing. Inside, Erin finally asked what everyone had been thinking. "Was that really internal affairs? Like real?" Nia nodded. "He used to be in my unit. Specialist Price back then. Tougher than he looks now." Erin leaned on the table. "I didn't know who you were. I mean, I just saw the jacket. That's the point," Nia said. "No one's supposed to know. You don't walk around broadcasting your service. You live with it. But sometimes You get tired of being treated like trash just because you don't have a fixed address. The teenager at the jukebox came over. Mom, were they going to arrest you? Nia looked at him for a second, then smiled. Just barely. They were going to try. Why? He asked. She tapped her fingers on the mug. Because sometimes people in charge get lazy. Or worse, they get used to being unchecked. Then they look at someone like me and figure it's easy points. The boy looked confused. What kind of points? She didn't answer right away. The kind that don't cost them anything. Until they do. Out front, Captain Russo arrived, bald, stocky, and already frowning. Price greeted him briefly, then pointed toward the squad car. Russo spoke to the two officers, his voice too low to hear through the glass. But his tone was clear. Price stepped back inside, minutes later, brushing water from his suit jacket. It's done for now, he told Nia. They're off duty until this gets sorted. Nia raised an eyebrow. Sorted? You know how this works. Price said. They'll push back. But it's on record. And with your call, everything's been documented. Their careers just hit a wall. She looked down at her coffee. Should have happened years ago. I know, he said. But better now than never. Erin lingered at the edge of the conversation. So, what happens to them? They'll face review, Price answered. Internal hearings, maybe early retirement to avoid public fallout. Depends what else turns up when we pull the old files. He turned to Nia again. I meant what I said on the phone. You saved my life. This was the least I could do. She gave him a long look. Then do one more thing for me. Anything. Don't let this get swept under the rug. Price nodded. But this wasn't just about today. It was about a pattern. Detective Owen Price wasn't one to waste time. That same afternoon, he drove straight back to the Raleigh office and requested access to archived complaints with Leighton and Rafferty's names attached. There weren't just a few. There were 12. Some were dismissed. Others mysteriously closed without interviews. One was still technically pending, filed by a woman who claimed Leighton shoved her during a noise complaint call after she asked to see his badge. The file had no follow-up, no photographs, no final report. Just a signature from Captain Russo marked, "Resolved, no action needed." Price stared at the screen. Resolved didn't mean right. It meant buried. By the next morning, he had everything printed and clipped into folders. He called Nia to give her an update. They've got a pattern, he said. And not just bad attitude. They've been using the badge to push people down. Same behavior, same profiles, homeless, black, brown, anyone they figured no one would believe. Nia didn't speak right away. Then she asked, You got proof? Enough for a hearing, Price said. If they don't retire first. She was quiet again. Then said, Good, that's a start. Later that week, Nia sat across from Price at a downtown cafe, this time indoors, with a real table and not a diner booth. Her duffel bag was still with her, but she wore a different coat. One with fewer holes. She sipped hot tea while Price laid the documents in front of her. These go back to 2018, he said. Same two officers, different stories, same tactics. There's even a report from a rookie who tried to raise concern about Leighton and got reassigned. Nia looked at the names. There were veterans, women from local shelters, even a busker who used to play guitar outside the train station. Most didn't leave contact info. Some were only listed by first name. I've been in a dozen towns since I got out, Nia said. You see the same thing over and over. People like Leighton act like it's policy. They assume no one will push back because most of us don't have time to file complaints. We're trying to stay dry and fed. Price leaned forward. You did more than push back. You broke the silence. Nia shook her head. I just made a call. That call triggered everything. She ran a finger over one of the folders. You ever wonder why someone like Leighton signs up in the first place? Control, Price said. Some men don't wear the badge for service. They wear it for permission, she nodded. And once they get it, they hold on tight. Price looked at her. I meant what I said before. You want to testify when this goes public? Naya paused. What good will that do? It sets a line in the dirt. It tells the next person they're not crazy when they say something feels off. Nia exhaled. Then yeah, I'll testify. But I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the woman who was too scared to leave her name on the report. I'm doing it for the vet who got told he smelled too bad to sit on a bus bench. They sat in silence for a few moments, the kind that comes after hard truth. Price finally asked, You got somewhere to stay tonight? Shelter on Elm, she said. They hold a cot for me when I call ahead. He nodded. If that ever changes, she cut him off gently. Don't go making this about charity. I've had enough of people trying to fix me. I just want the truth out there. Price smiled. Then we'll get it out there. She slid the folders back toward him. You hold the pen. I'll hold the line. But the truth wasn't going to stay buried anymore. By the following week, the story had made the local news. It wasn't the lead segment, but it ran just long enough to catch people's attention. 2 officers under investigation. Internal Affairs reopening past complaints. Allegations of harassment against vulnerable civilians. The station used old headshots of Leighton and Rafferty in uniform, smiling. The kind of photos that didn't match the stories behind them. But word spread fast. The diner staff started getting calls. The owner, Stan Riley, a former Marine himself, released a shaky statement on Facebook saying the diner welcomed all patrons and would cooperate with ongoing investigations. Comments poured in, some supportive, others not. Erin, the waitress, called Nia a few days later. I didn't know what to say then, she said over the phone. But I should have said something. I'm sorry. Nia sat on the back steps of the shelter, the phone pressed to her ear. You did more than most. You brought the coffee. Erin laughed nervously. Still, it doesn't sit right. That's the point, Nia said. It's not supposed to. The investigation turned over more than expected. Leighton had quietly settled a civil complaint in 2019. The department had classified it under training intervention, which was code for sweeping it under the rug. Now it was all coming out. Pressure mounted. Community groups called for disciplinary action. Reporters started showing up outside the precinct. Leighton and Rafferty were placed on extended administrative leave. Rumor was Leighton had already contacted a lawyer about negotiating early retirement to avoid public hearings. At a town meeting the next Thursday, a woman stood up with a crumpled folder in her hand. Her name was Lorraine Pierce, and she told the room about how Leighton had thrown her son against a police cruiser for mouthing off when he was 16. She'd filed a complaint. Nothing happened. They said it was my word against his, she told the crowd. But now, I know I wasn't the only one. Nia didn't attend that meeting. She didn't need to. Her presence had already started the fire. Instead, she spent the evening walking the perimeter of a nearby church that hosted pop-up meals for the unhoused. She helped hand out foil-wrapped sandwiches, then sat beside a man named Curtis, who used to run an auto shop before losing his house last year. You really got those 2 kicked off the force? He asked, unwrapping his sandwich slowly. They kicked themselves off, Nia said. I just pulled back the curtain. Curtis laughed. Well, it's about time somebody did. At that moment, it wasn't about credit or attention. Nia didn't want a medal or a headline. What she wanted was space. For people like Curtis to sit without being looked at sideways, for women like Lorraine to speak without being dismissed. She wanted a kind of justice that didn't come with conditions. The next morning, she got a call from Price. They've both submitted retirement paperwork, he said. Effective immediately. No pensions either. Not with the kind of heat we brought down. Captain Russo's been reassigned, pending review. Nia didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, that's supposed to make me feel better? Price hesitated. It's not a win, but it's movement. That's fair, she said. Movement's good. He paused. There's talk of a formal recognition. The department wants to issue something, maybe a commendation. No, she said flatly. They didn't protect me. They don't get to celebrate me. Then what do you want? He asked. I want someone to hear the next woman when she says she's being mistreated. I want someone to believe the next man who says he didn't do anything wrong. That's all. Back at the diner, Erin placed a small sticker on the front window. It wasn't loud or flashy, just white block letters that read, "Veterans welcome here, no questions." But even after the headlines faded, her story kept moving. 2 months later, Fayetteville had quieted down, but the shift hadn't gone unnoticed. A few new faces had joined the police department. A community liaison had been appointed. The town council passed a policy requiring all complaint records to remain open to public audit for 5 years. But Nia Rowland didn't stick around for the ceremonies or the PR. She found her way to Greensboro, about an hour's drive away, where she started volunteering at a transitional housing center for homeless veterans. She didn't talk about the diner much. If people recognized her, they didn't say anything. And if they did, she changed the subject. She preferred to spend her time where it mattered, in the laundry room, handing out soap and quarters. In the kitchen, making soup from scratch. On the lawn, sharing quiet talks with men and women who had also seen too much, lost too much, and carried more than they let on. One afternoon, while sweeping the back steps, she heard someone call her name. It was Erin. She looked different, more at ease, hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt. In her hands, she held 2 paper bags. "I found out you were working here," she said. "I brought lunch. Hope you still like turkey and mustard." Nia smiled. "You drove all the way here for that?" Erin handed her a bag. "Not just for that." They sat together on the curb, the warm spring air thick with the smell of cut grass. Erin didn't say much at first. Then she asked, "You ever think about writing it all down? What happened that day?" "I think about it," Nia said. "But writing it down makes it too clean. It wasn't clean. It was ugly. It still is. Maybe that's why people need to hear it." Erin said, "Because it's not clean." Nia looked out at the road. A group of volunteers was unloading canned food from a van. Across the yard, an older man in a wheelchair was laughing at something a little girl said. "You know what I realized after that day?" Nia said. "Respect isn't owed to uniforms. It's owed to character. You can wear a badge or carry a rifle or sit behind a judge's bench, but none of that means a thing if you treat people like they're less than you." Erin nodded slowly. "I think about that too." "You saw something that day," Nia said. "You felt it, that little discomfort in your gut? That was your conscience. That's what changes people. Not anger, not fear, just that tiny voice that says, 'This isn't right.' Most folks ignore it." "I didn't ignore it this time," Erin said. "Thanks to you." Nia didn't respond right away. She just kept chewing. Later, as they stood to leave, Erin hesitated. "What are you going to do next?" Nia shrugged. "Help out here. Listen, make sure the next veteran who walks into a diner doesn't get asked to leave. Small stuff." "Doesn't sound small to me," Erin said. Nia smiled again. "That's because you're paying attention now." Erin gave her a quick hug. It wasn't long or dramatic, just real. As Erin pulled away, Nia said, "Hey, next time someone looks at someone like me and starts to judge, yeah? Ask yourself one thing. What would it cost you to show respect instead?" Erin nodded, this time without hesitation. "Got it." That night, Nia sat on her cot with the little flip phone beside her. It hadn't rung in days. That was fine. She wasn't waiting for anyone. She was finally in a place where her silence wasn't misunderstood. She closed her eyes and exhaled. For once, no one was looking to throw her out. No one was asking her to explain her presence. She simply was. How many like Nia go ignored until they're forced to fight back? Maybe it's time we start noticing before it's too late. Subscribe if you believe stories like this matter.